There is in fact a white pumpkin and oak wood candle burning in the background. We had our pumpkin coffee this morning, and we are going to go over some fall TBR books. We have 15 books today. That should be on your autumn reading list. We have a wonderful mix of some horror books, some cozy witchy books, some dark romance, some academic setting, because we're balanced. In addition to reading a Why Choose Dark Romance, I also want to be scared with a horror book. Most of these books as well are under 400 pages. So if you're looking for a ton of just like quick hitter options, most of this list is going to be so fast, so spooky, so scary. I think I only have one book that's over 500 pages, and I will let you know which one it is. I'm gonna start with a book that I love to reread in the fall, and that is The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab. Hopefully you've read V.E. Schwab before, because they are an amazing, amazing author. I have so many books to recommend for V.E. Schwab, but I'm gonna focus on this one. Hopefully you've read Addie LaRue. Hopefully you've read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. That's one of my top books of the whole year. We're living with our main character, Lexi. She lives in a very isolated village that is completely surrounded by the moors and then also backed by some woods. Everyone in this town knows each other. They know each other's histories. They know each other's ancestors. Like, this is a very, very small town, which is steeped in folklore and superstitions. They have 3 sayings going along with that folklore and superstition. The Near Witch is only an old story told to frighten children. If the wind calls at night, you must not listen. The wind is lonely and always looking for company. There are no strangers in the town of Near. One night, Lexi meets an actual stranger. I think that speaks to how isolated this town is, that she's never met someone that she has not known before. An actual stranger, a boy who seems to fade like smoke, appears outside her home on the moor at night, and she knows that at least one of these sayings is no longer true. The next night, the children of Near start disappearing from their beds, and the mysterious boy falls under suspicion. Lexi's little sister disappears, and she has to get down to the mystery of what is happening. The descriptions of the witches in this book and some kind of like old crone type characters and their cottage and everything is immaculate autumnal witchy vibes. If you like books that are much more like creepy, unsettling with good descriptions but not scary, this would be a good one. Next up, I need to continue reading the backlist of Rachel Harrison. I've read 2 books by her before and absolutely loved both of them. I read Cackle, which is another book that is peak witchy, more cozy vibes. And then I've also read Such Sharp Teeth, which I gave 5 stars. So we need to continue. I am kind of on a vampire kick, which I think you'll notice with the next couple books, but I'm on a vampire kick even just for September so far, and it is September 3rd. So I thought So Thirsty would be a good one to pick up. We're following Sloane Parker. It's her birthday, and she's not the happiest with her life. Her husband, in order to celebrate her birthday, has planned a weekend getaway, but it's not with him. He planned a weekend getaway for Sloane with her best friend Naomi, so that way they could get away, have a little girls' weekend. She anticipates a weekend of wine tasting and cozy robes and strategic avoidance of the issues she'd rather not confront, like her husband's constant infidelity. But instead, Naomi wants to shake it up, and she plans just an absolute night of debauchery out on the town with strangers. Her friend is trying to convince her to stop just letting life happen to her and actually actively live her life. Rachel Harrison, a theme within her books, her characters are going through like a big life change. So it almost reads slightly lit-ficky with the character depth and how real her characters feel, and they're going through sometimes relatable situations that are very realistic, and then they always have a horror like twinge to them. But during their wild night out with a group of mysterious strangers, it takes a horrifying turn and changes Sloane and Naomi's lives literally forever. The friends are forced to come to terms with some pretty eternal consequences in this bloody, seductive novel about how it's never too late to find satisfaction, even though it might taste different than expected. This, to me, seems like it's giving similar vibes to Hungerstone by Kat Dunn, which has also been one of my top reads of the entire year so far. She was also hungry to like change her life, but that hunger took a form that she was not anticipating. Hungerstone by Kat Dunn is also incredible. I would highly recommend it. But this seems like that in a different font, a bit more contemporary, whereas Hungerstone is more historic fantasy, Carmilla retelling. Let's stick with vampires for just a moment. The Greyfriar by Clay Griffith and Susan Griffith. I don't know why their last name is so difficult for me to say, so if I trip up over their last name at some point, I do apologize. This is the first book in a vampire dystopian fantasy trilogy called Vampire Empire, not to be confused with Jay Kristoff's Empire of the Vampire. These books were published in 2010. You cannot convince me that Jay Kristoff didn't pull inspiration for his series from these books. I'm actually reading the first one right now, but I do have the other 2 books in the series on my fall TBR because these are books that do not romanticize vampires. Vampires are very evil creatures. They've taken over the world. That's why it's a little bit dystopian. Vampires took over most of the world in like 1870. The year is now 2020 in these books, and humankind has rallied to try to fight back. We follow a princess, Princess Adela, who is almost like this beacon of hope. She's been training her whole life to be able to rally her troops, rally mankind. She is in this arranged marriage to also bolster and strengthen these like humankind nations, because since vampires have taken over, vampire clans have their own territories and humankind has their own territories. But the Greyfriar is this mysterious, almost myth of a being, person, question mark, human, who fights vampires and is notorious for being very, very good at slaying vampires from within their own territories. And no one has really seen him. No one knows much about him. He's this cloaked figure. But Princess Adela and the Greyfriar end up with their paths crossing. It's stunning. Like, these books are so good. If you want that true dystopian fantasy, super vampire-y, very dark gothic vibes. The writing, I will say, is not gothic. The writing is very straightforward, super easy to understand. I'm actually listening to the audiobook for The Greyfriar and having the most wonderful time. I'm about halfway through it right now, and I started it yesterday, if that says anything at all. I'm realizing that I have 15 books on this list, but I keep mentioning so many other books, so we probably are gonna talk about like 20 plus books for options for your autumnal reading list. This is a book I've been meaning to read for actually so long, and it's kind of illegal that I haven't read it yet because I've heard nothing but incredible things. Slewfoot by Brom. This author has put illustrations in this book. I'm trying to find like a not super creepy one to show you potentially, but they are really creepy. It's definitely a horror book. I mean, this is chapter 1. This is chapter 1. This is about a woman who meets an entity in the woods and like makes a deal with them type vibe, similar to like, I don't want to say like Addie LaRue because Addie LaRue is not a horror, but it has that kind of trope in it, if you can call it a trope. Set in colonial New England, an ancient spirit awakens in a dark wood. The wild folk call him Father Slayer and Protector. The colonists call him Slewfoot, Demon, Devil. To Abatha, a recently widowed outcast, alone and vulnerable in her pious village, he is the only one she can turn to for help. Together they ignite a battle between pagan and Puritan, one that threatens to destroy the entire village, leaving nothing but ashes and bloodshed in its wake. Period. Next up is The Whistling by Rebecca Netley. We are taking a hard swerve into true horror books. This sounds terrifying. Our main character's name is Elspeth. She is a nanny to a family on the remote Scottish island of Skelthsea.
I have no idea how to say that.
Charge Mary is a troubled young girl. She doesn't speak much ever since the death of her twin, William. Unexpected and very sudden death, I should mention, which took place just after their last nanny disappeared. Elspeth tries to turn to the islanders, but no one will speak of what happened to William, just as no one can explain the hypnotic lullabies sung in the corridors, strange dolls that appear in abandoned rooms, nor the faint whistling that comes in at night. As winter draws in and passage to the mainland becomes impossible, Elspeth finds herself trapped. But is the house haunted by the ghosts of the past or the secrets of the living? Give me a haunted house story and I'm so there. I feel like this is a book you will need to read with the lights on. While the sun is out during the daylight hours, it's gonna be far too scary to read at night when it's dark out. Like, what are you talking about? If I heard a whistle while reading this book, I think I would actually pee my pants. Then we have The Haunting of Velkwood. This is by Gwendolyn Keast. This is super short. This is under 300 pages. If there's one thing I absolutely love is a horror that is kind of on the shorter side, because you know that the pacing is going to be fast and furious. The scaries are gonna start and they're gonna start right away. This is a book about 3 childhood friends who miraculously survive the night everyone in their suburban neighborhood turned into ghosts. I'm sorry, what? The Velkwood vicinity was the topic of occult theorists, tabloid one-hour documentaries, and even some pseudo-scientific investigations as the block of homes disappeared behind a near impenetrable veil that only 3 survivors could enter, and only one has in the past 20 years until now. Talitha Velkwood has avoided anything to do with this tragedy. She feels trapped by her past, obviously. She's kind of known as this person who survived this tragedy. A new researcher tracks her down and offers to pay her to come back to enter the vicinity. She claims that she's just doing it for the money. No one's been able to discover what happened, so Talitha, her estranged former best friend Brett, and Grace escaped their homes 20 years ago. Will she find the answers she's been looking for all these years, or is this just another dead end? It sounds like a book that you would read in one night, but also it would be so scary to read overnight. Maybe I'm gonna do a 24-hour readathon of reading like the scariest books on my TBR. It sounds like I have to at this point. Another haunted house book. I don't think I've ever read anything by Darcy Coates, which is kind of a crime because she has so many horror books, like horror type thriller books, and I need to read one of them. So Gallows Hill was recommended to me by my Patreons. I had to add it to this list. The whole family has owned Gallows Hill Winery for generations. They live, they work on this land. One night, Mr. and Mrs. Hull lay down to go to sleep and they're dead. They never wake up again. Their daughter Margot inherits the business. She wants nothing to do with it. She doesn't want to live there. She is creeped out by this place because it's valued for its unparalleled produce. It's a very valuable business. However, it's built on a field where hundreds of convicts were once hanged, and the locals whisper morbid rumors. They say the ground is cursed, rightfully so. It's been more than a decade since Margot last saw her childhood home, but now that she's alone in the sprawling, dilapidated building, she begins to believe the curse is more than real. Margot begins to believe that the curse is not only real, but that she is the next target of this curse. I love a haunted house story. Next up is Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman. One thing about me, if I see on Goodreads that a horror book has a really low average rating, like this one has a 3.38, it's probably gonna hit for me. I feel like horror books are so hit or miss for so many people. However, it has been a pattern that any of the lowest rated books on Goodreads that are horror books, I should specify, I love them and they're usually a 4 or 5 star for me. So let's hope that's the case with this one. This was another book that was recommended to me as well. It's a supernatural horror, which we love. Give me all of the ghosties. Erin's not good at setting boundaries. She hasn't been able to set a single boundary with her charismatic but reckless college ex-boyfriend Silas. When he asks her to bail him out of rehab again, she knows she needs to cut him off. But days after he gets out, Silas turns up dead of an overdose in their hometown of Richmond, Virginia, and Erin's world falls apart. Then a friend tells her about Ghost, which is a new drug that allows users to see the dead. Want to get haunted? He asks. Grieving and desperate for closure with Silas, Erin agrees to a pill-popping seance, but the drug has unfathomable side effects. Once you take it, you can never go back. Obvious trigger warnings with horrors. I feel like you need to be aware of content warnings, so please check content warnings. I think that some of them were pretty clear in that summary. I'm scared just reading that. Let's switch to one book that's a little bit cozier, and then I have another horror book that we'll go back to, but A Dark and Secret Magic by Wallace Kinney. This is a warm and spellbinding tale about a witch. Her coven has been keeping secrets from her. It also has some inspiration from like a Hades and Persephone type setup, and one thing about me is I love Hades and Persephone. In the tradition of practical magic and the Witch of Wild Things, love the compares already. Hecate Goodwin, Kate to her friends, has curated the perfect life as a hedge witch, living in a secluded cottage with only a black cat for company. She spends her days foraging and doing, honestly, like my dream life. You know that clip from Love Island about a perfect date?
What was the date? It was just like sitting down like on the beach. My dream date. Cute. And he knows that.
That's how I feel reading this summary. Most evenings pass without her talking to another human being. What is it like to live my dream? I'm just kidding. Her older sister Miranda reaches out and asks to host their coven's annual Halloween gathering. The day marks the beginning of a new year for witches and is also Kate's birthday. The pressure from her coven mounts as the event draws near. To complicate things further, a handsome man from Kate's past turns up at her cottage asking for sanctuary. It's Kate's duty as a hedge witch to honor this request, much to her dismay. Matthew Cipher is no ordinary lost soul. He's a practitioner of forbidden magic who's tricked Kate once before, and her guard is up. She has to balance basically everyone coming back into her life at the same time. And that would be overwhelming for even the strongest of us. So that's a dark and secret magic. Back to a scary book. This is a horror. It's by Jack Ketchum. I don't know what put me on to this author. It might have been a TikTok recommending horror books. These books are older. This one was published in 2006. I don't know what it is lately, but I've really been enjoying reading books that were published like 2010 and older. So it's kind of fun, and hopefully they'll be easy to find like at your library or something like that. Off Season by Jack Ketchum. This has to do with, I want to say like similar vibes to The Hills Have Eyes, except it takes place in Maine. A quiet Maine beach town of Dead River, it's off season. A beautiful New York editor retreats to this lonely cabin, awaiting her sister and friends, but nearby a savage human family with a taste for flesh lurks in the darkening woods, watching and waiting for the moon to rise and night to fall. And before too many hours passed, 5 civilized, sophisticated people and 1 tired old country sheriff will learn just how primitive we all are beneath the surface, and that there are no limits at all to the will to survive. It's like a survive the night tale. I don't want to say slasher because this family just seems off. It's maybe the nicest way to put it. I am so curious to learn about this writing style because Jack Ketchum has a big backlist that I'm curious about. I've never read anything from this author before, so if you have, please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But for a horror book, it actually has a higher rating on Goodreads than I typically see. It has a 3.76, but maybe the ones that are higher rating won't work for me. I don't know. We'll see. Let's get into some academy setting books and switch a little bit more to some romancy things. This book is just over 500 pages. Immortal Consequences by Ivy Marie. It's the first book in the Souls of Blackwood Academy series. All I needed to read from this book was the first sentence of the summary, and I'm in. 6 students at Blackwood Academy, an enigmatic boarding school located at the edge of the afterlife, must compete for the once-in-eternity chance to change their fate or risk remaining stuck in purgatory forever. For fans of the Atlas 6, I did not love the Atlas 6, but mostly because of the pacing of the story. If this book just moves a little bit faster and is a little bit more interesting, I think I'll be there. I think it could be a 5-star for me. Blackwood Academy is a legendary school located at the fringes of the afterlife where students are fated to spend the rest of eternity shepherding lost souls. Competition, dark academia, themes of death, and this competition allows them to change their fate of shepherding souls. I'm already there. Then I have 2 dark romances. What would an autumn reading list be if I didn't have some creepy dark romances in here? It wouldn't be complete, that's the answer. Eternal Captive by Elle May. I read my first book by Elle May earlier this year. It was her like Sapphic Demon series. Very spicy novellas. Highly recommend that series as well if you want some like monster romance, but they're within reason, like monster demons. So that doesn't get like too crazy in terms of the monster romance side of things. Eternal Captive is about vampires. We have a cruel vampire princess and a cold hunter who come face to face after a prophecy foretells the princess's death by the hunter's hands. Another summary that got me with the first sentence. And I've read from Elle May before, so I was like, yes, this is perfect. This is perfect and we love it here. Jesper was born into a family that was very proficient in killing any supernatural being. But when it finally came to fulfill the prophecy, he found himself face to face with the most cruel yet breathtaking creature he'd ever come to know. The same one I was supposed to kill. Yet how is it every time I try, she's always one step ahead of me? It does say to check the content warnings on the author's website for this one. I don't need to know anymore. If you do, there's more to the summary than that. Another dark academy setting, but this one is a dark romance. It's Web of Lies by Allie Beck. I don't know where I found this. This had to have either been on Kindle Unlimited or Book Talk got me with this one. It's the first book in the Apocalypse Society. This one is 548 pages. However, I feel like this is going to be a KU dark spicy romance that is just the fastest thing to read. Like you read 5 pages and it feels like one type thing. This is about a main character who transferred to East Point Prep with one mission: to get revenge for the people responsible for murdering Magnolia. Someone within these entitled walls killed my only friend, yes, and threw her overboard like she was human trash, and now they'll pay. I know every incident and have the names of the bullies and her murderers: Sager Chase, Zeppelin, Carter, and Ainsley. Somehow everything gets twisted and turned around. Every piece of evidence turns to ash. Magnolia lied to me, and I have to unravel her words one piece at a time to understand the hidden truth within her code. My pawns become my kings. They help me search for the invisible culprit slithering through the shadows. The hunter becomes the hunted. It is a mature, dark, contemporary, new adult bully romance full of mystery, spicy scenes, and foul language, and it is what I choose. And then last up, let's take a very hard swerve away from dark romance and go back to a thriller horror. This I would love to read in September because I feel like it fits the transition between summer to fall perfectly. The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. It's about a teenager who disappears from a summer camp, but it's not any teenager. It is the daughter to the owners of the summer camp. It takes place early morning, August 1975. Immediately loving the vibes. A camp counselor finds an empty bunk. Its occupant, Barbara Van Laar, has gone missing. Barbara isn't any 13-year-old. She's the daughter of the family that owns the summer camp and employs most of the region's residents. This isn't the first time a Van Laar child has disappeared. Barbara's older brother similarly vanished 14 years ago, never to be found. As a panicked search begins, a thrilling drama unfolds. We get to explore the secrets of the Van Laar family and the blue-collar community working in its shadow. So many of my friends have read this book and given it 5 stars, so I feel like it's perfect to put on this reading list. And those, my friends, are probably a little bit over 15 books to read in autumn. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. I will catch you in the comments, and I will see you in my next one very soon. Toodles!